Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 19th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my reaction to the Arsenal-Newcastle game over the weekend. Unfortunately, this was a really poor performance and a very poor result, so I'm just going to kind of give you guys my thoughts on it, how I felt the whole game went, how I think we can improve, and essentially how I think we need to bounce back heading forward, as of course, this now means that we've only gotten 1 point in the last 3 Premier League games, which of course is significant, and of course we are currently trailing in the table. So yeah, but pretty much I'm just going to give my thoughts on the game, how I felt everything went, and how I think we can progress from here going forward. But yeah, pretty much let's just get straight into it, and there's no beating around the bush here. This was a really poor performance. We just did not turn up. The creativity just wasn't there, and Newcastle were the deserved winners. It's as simple as that. Newcastle played really well. They they smashed it, and they definitely deserved to win. So pretty much so the game started, and the possession, as expected, was kind of just a fierce battle, fairly even. Of course, St James's Park is a very tough place to go, and of course Newcastle are always going to be very up for it, and they certainly were on this day. They were doing really well with the possession, and we were gradually finding our possession as well, but again, anytime we had the possession, the creativity just wasn't there, and that's the main problem. The creativity wasn't there. In terms of the goal, don't get me wrong, it was a fantastic goal from Newcastle. Gordon crossed it really nicely, and then Alexander Isak headed it in to make it 1-0, but I must say the defending on our end for the goal was so poor. Like that's the thing. Like, yes, it was a great goal, but it was also so avoidable, and that's what makes it so frustrating. So firstly, nobody marked Anthony Gordon. That was the first thing. Nobody. Anthony Gordon had the ball, and we know how dangerous Anthony Gordon is with the crosses. Anthony Gordon's cross is fantastic. He's very, very good. He's electric. He's somebody that needs to be marked, and just nobody marked Gordon. Seriously, he was able to get past the defense, cross it in, and just absolutely nobody picked him up. And then again, when the ball came in, nobody picked up Alexander Isak. Absolutely nobody picked him up, and that allowed Isak to head it in. So the goal was great, and it was a really nice goal, but it was so avoidable, because had we done a bit more marking on Anthony Gordon or Alexander Isak, we could easily have prevented it. So that's what makes it so frustrating. It's a goal that was so preventable, but again, no credit taken away from Newcastle. It was a great goal. The cross from Gordon was absolutely sublime, and then a very nice header by Alexander Isak. So of course that didn't get us off to the best start. That was the thinking about the 14th or 15th minute, and obviously that didn't get us into the best start, because of course once you go to St James's Park and once the crowd gets going, it's going to be a very tough day, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, the crowd was already very electric and very fired up before the goal, but after the goal it was just a different level. The atmosphere completely just was a tough one to deal with, and I could tell that the players were feeling it. Once the crowd started going crazy after the goal, and once the crowd really began to get behind the lads, the Newcastle lads, of course I could tell that things just got a lot more difficult. And from there, while yes, we were having possession, there just was no creativity, and I think that's the main thing that we can really take away from this game. The creativity just wasn't there, and I think for me this is definitely a game where we seriously missed Martin Odegaard. I think this is one of those games which you really realize how instrumental Martin Odegaard is to our attack and everything. And of course this isn't an excuse, and by no means is this intended as an excuse. Ultimately, we've not had him for a while, and we just didn't turn up on this day, but I am just trying to make an observation as to how instrumental Martin Odegaard actually is to our attack. And I think against Newcastle it was really shown, as the creativity just wasn't there. I thought Martinelli in particular just didn't have a great game. I think that I noticed that at several points, rather than just crossing it, I could tell he was kind of just trying to win corners, and I completely understand that we're very good at set pieces and everything, but by the same token, we can't always just rely on them. Like, we have to, we have to show creativity. We have to go forward as well. And I could really tell that there were several points where Martinelli had really good crossing opportunities, but instead he was trying to kick it into the legs of one of the Newcastle defenders to try and win a corner instead, and as I said, yes, I get how good we are at set pieces, but by the same token, if there's a better opportunity with a cross that could potentially lead to a goal, then we have to be taking that. And as I said, that's exactly what Newcastle did through Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak combining together for the goal. So yeah, that's one thing I wasn't pleased with. Saka, of course, didn't have his absolute best day, but at the same time, he did set up a couple of opportunities, in particular that cross that he gave to Declan Rice, and then Declan Rice unfortunately just couldn't quite get the header into the back of the net, and that was a golden chance. It was a really good opportunity. So Saka definitely didn't have his best day, but also he was one of the only ones that was showing at least a bit of creativity, trying to get past, trying to make some dribbles, having a couple shots, and as I said, that cross that he delivered to Declan Rice was a golden opportunity that unfortunately Declan Rice didn't take. But yeah, there's really no way of putting it. It was just a really poor performance. The squad just didn't turn up, and I wasn't pleased with what I saw. It was good seeing Ranieri come on and get some minutes, although of course with with the difficult defense of Newcastle, he didn't really get to do much. Gabriel Jesus, again, the problem is once, obviously, and again, there's nothing wrong with his tactic. Like, this isn't a criticism of Newcastle at all, but once they scored, they really began to kind of, defend a lot, commit some fouls, etc. The fouls, that is one thing I wasn't happy with Newcastle about. I did feel they were fouling us a lot, and that's something I wasn't pleased about. But at the same time, it's a tough game, and you're 1-0 up, so you're probably going to look to, commit some fouls and try and prevent them from scoring. So, but yeah, obviously the defending is completely fine. You're allowed to defend as much as you want. This is football. I would never try and tell another team or another manager how to play. They got the goal, so they had every single right to defend a lot. So I didn't really have an issue with that. But as I said, I did have an issue with the fouling. It did feel like they were really, really fouling us, especially after the goal. They weren't doing it as much before the goal, and that's why I felt that maybe the intention was to score a goal and then try and like really foul us and kind of, make it a bit more of a rough game. But again, it is what it is. Again, the defending I had no issue with. The only thing I had an issue with was the fouling, but obviously it is what it is now. But yeah, Newcastle was certainly the deserved winners. There's no question about that. They played incredibly well. It's definitely some of the best football that I've seen them play. Of course, it just sucks that it happened against us, because the thing is, before this, Newcastle hadn't. Prior to this, Newcastle were winless in their last 5 in the Premier League, and that's why it just sucks that they played so well against us. But of course, massive respect to them. They deserve the win, and this is a massive result for them as well. Of course, they did just beat Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, so Newcastle are definitely looking on the up, and they're looking to turn things around. Of course, they're through to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, and they've got a pretty good fixture. They've got Brentford at home, so that's a game you'd expect them to win. So they could very well get to the semi-final, and we could very well, if we get past Crystal Palace, which of course you would hope that we do, we could potentially even face Newcastle again. So it's entirely possible that we might end up having to face Newcastle again at some point. Obviously, we know we're going to face them at the Emirates when they come to us, but as I said, through the Carabao Cup, it's entirely possible that we might end up facing them again. So yeah, we'll definitely have to be ready for that, and we'll have to come back stronger. But yeah, that's pretty much the main summary of the game. Just really poor performance. The creativity wasn't there. I think this game, like, we've definitely noticed it in previous games, but I think this is the game where we most noticed Martin Odegaard's absence. For me, this is the game where it was felt the most. Just without Martin Odegaard's spark, his creativity, his leadership, we just looked lost on the pitch, and we just were not. We didn't turn up. It's as simple as that. We played poorly. We didn't turn up. The chances were not there. They were the chances were far and few between, and again, they were mainly made by Bukayo Saka through the crosses and stuff. But just the overall team had a very poor day, and I don't really think anybody played particularly well. But it's one of those things. It's a tough place to go, and we have to just move on from it. In terms of Liverpool and Manchester City, of course, lost to Bournemouth, which at least makes this slightly easier to take, because at least they're not just massively ahead of us. I mean, they're still, I think, 5 points, that's still a lot. And Liverpool did win against Brighton, so this means that they're now just massively ahead. They're 7 points clear. So, of course, it's not a good position to be in. Only 10 games in to be 5 points behind City and 7 points behind Liverpool. And mind you, we could even go behind more teams today. At the time of recording, the Sunday Premier League games haven't been played yet. So if, for example, Chelsea wins, they go ahead of us. Nottingham Forest have already gone ahead of us after their win against West Ham. So yeah, unfortunately, it's entirely possible that we could go even further down the Premier League. Right now, we're 3rd, but that could very well change to... we're 4th, and that could very well change to be even lower, which of course is sad, but it's the reality. But we have to move on from this now. It is what it is. We've got, in my opinion, the toughest game for the entire rest of 2024 on Wednesday. We've got Inter Milan away, an absolutely massive game. In my opinion, the toughest game for the rest of our year. So we're seriously going to have to turn up. Now, the good news is that Arteta has been mentioning that the ambition is to get Martin Odegaard ready to play against Inter Milan. So really, really hoping that happens, because we need him back, man. He's been gone for too long. We've really, really felt his absence. We need our captain back. We need our creative midfielder back. So yeah, but as a final summary of the game, fantastic. Newcastle played very well, and there's no doubt about it. Huge respect to them. They scored the goal. Yes, I wasn't particularly thrilled with the fouling, but again, it is part of football, and ultimately, if the referee isn't doing too much, then I guess it's something to take advantage of. But still, they did deserve to win. They defended really well after the goal. They just kind of shut us down, really, and as I said, we just looked a bit lost on that pitch, but still, it is what it is. We have to move on now. We have to give Arteta our support. Of course, Arteta's going through a lot right now in the sense that a lot of people, I've actually been seeing people saying Arteta out, and I can understand the frustration, but I do think it's a bit, I don't think we really should be saying Arteta out yet. I think that's a bit over the top. Like, yes, he's been in rough form recently, but, every manager goes through this, and we have to just, we have to back him, especially ahead of these tough games and with the injuries that we still have. Yes, we had a more complete squad yesterday, but there were still absentees. So, yeah, but pretty much that's going to do it. So massive respect to Newcastle. If you're a Newcastle fan, you should feel very proud of your team. You guys played very well. And please let me know down below if any Newcastle fans are watching this and how you're feeling for the rest of your season. Because honestly, if you guys can carry on playing like that in your next games, you're going to be a very tough team to deal with. That's for sure. So huge respect to you. Of course, I'm looking forward to the Emirates game where hopefully we can get some revenge. Of course, last year it was this exact same scoreline at Newcastle away, 1-0, and then we did go on to win the Emirates game 4-1. So hopefully we can have a good performance at the Emirates. And as I said, we could very well end up facing Newcastle again in the Carabao Cup. So this certainly isn't the last of this game. But yeah, I've always noticed that this game just always seems to have a lot of needle behind it. And yesterday was the same thing, loads of yellow cards, loads of fouling on both sides. I don't know. It's always been one of those games that's always had loads of fouls and yellow cards and just kind of a lot of needle behind it. But yeah, that's going to be it. So in summary, a poor performance. Yes, it was a fantastic goal from Newcastle, but could have been better defended. Newcastle found the goal. They defended fantastically. They did foul us a lot. And in my opinion, that probably was part of their strategy. Like, I would argue that Eddie Howe probably did encourage them to do that. Like, he probably did say, try and get the goal, try and get the early goal, and then try and make it rough, defend really well, foul them, etc., etc. But it's football strategy, and yes, it's not great to foul, but ultimately, it happened and we have to deal with it. But yeah, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you guys for watching. A tough pill to swallow, a tough result to take, but it's one that we must move on from. We've got an absolutely massive game against Inter Milan on Wednesday, which, as I said, in my opinion, is the toughest game for the entire rest of 2024 that we've got. And that's saying a lot because we've got some tough ones still to play. But in my opinion, this Inter Milan one is by far the most difficult. So we have to turn up. We have to turn up. We have to put a performance. 1 point in our last 3 Premier League games. And not only that, but even our Shakhtar Donetsk performance, our last Champions League performance, it just wasn't great. Like, we didn't, we won that one, but we still looked poor. So realistically, the last 4 games have been a little bit rough. But yeah, it is what it is. We bounce back, we move on. We have to back the squad, we have to back Arteta, and we have to head into a very tough week against Inter Milan and also Chelsea. But yeah, a difficult result to take, a great performance by Newcastle, a deserved victory, and yeah, we didn't deserve to get anything out of the game. We were just poor. We were not, we weren't creative enough, and we definitely should have done better. But it is what it is. But yeah, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of the Arsenal-Newcastle game. Where do you think we go from here? Do we win a trophy, etc., etc.? And as I said, if you're a Newcastle fan, please let me know how you're feeling. Of course, you've had a big week. You beat Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, and now you beat us. So, of course, that's a massive week. And Newcastle certainly seems to be on the up. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Remember to to subscribe, like, turn on all notifications. Remember to follow the TikTok and Twitter pages that can be seen on screen at Gooners and Gloves. And yeah, remember to tune in for future podcasts. I'll have the Inter Milan reaction coming out on Thursday. I'll make sure to have another boxing video soon. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in another podcast soon. Bye bye.